Okay, tonight is 25th of August, and this is the 6th night. We are speaking on the Sutta Nipata, the last chapter tonight, chapter 5, Parayanavagga, the chapter of the way to the beyond. Of all the suttas in the Khuddaka Nikaya, I think that this is the most important, this chapter of the way to the beyond. If you look into it, there's a lot of Dhamma. We start with the prologue. One day a man walked out of the beautiful city of Savatthi in Kosala. He was Bhavari the Brahmin, one versed in the Vedic mantras. He had set out on the southern road in search of detachment. He travelled till he came to the land of the Asakas, and there, where it meets the Alakas land, on the banks of the river Godavari, he stayed, living off fruit and whatever else he could gather. One day, begging in a rich village nearby, he was given such a quantity of gifts that he was able to hold a great offering ceremony. He had just finished the rituals and got back to his hut when another Brahmin arrived at the door. He was thirsty, covered with dust, with stains on his teeth and swellings on his feet. He came up to the hermit and begged to be given 500 pence worth of money. As soon as the hermit saw the visitor, he made him sit down. After he had asked after his health and happiness, he told the man he couldn't help. You see, Brahmin, I've given away everything I've been given. Please forgive me, but I haven't got 500 pence. And the visitor said, You have rejected the pleading of a beggar. May your head split into 7 in 7 days' time as a result of this refusal. And then, before he left, the rascal chanted spells and laid a formal curse on Bhavari, to the Brahmin's great distress. In the days that followed, the Brahmin's pain increased. The sadness and grief were like darts in his side. He couldn't eat, he just wasted away. He couldn't even settle his mind in meditation. But a friendly goddess spirit saw him in his suffering and fear, and so she came to his hut and talked to him. He was only an impostor, that man, she said, trying to make easy money. Besides, he was ignorant. He knows nothing about the head and nothing about head splitting. Goddess, said the Brahmin, if he doesn't know, then who does? If you understand head splitting, then please tell me all about it. I have to understand it. No, said the spirit, I can't help you. I don't know a thing about it. The only people who can know about things like that are conquerors. Well then, Goddess, said the Brahmin, you must tell me who in the world I can go to who will know. And this is how the Goddess replied. In the line of the great king Okaka, a boy has been born to the Sakyans. He has gone out of their capital Kapilavatthu. He has gone into the world as a leader and a light. This man, Brahmin, has total enlightenment. This man has total perfection. This man has the power of total knowledge, the eye of total vision. He has found the total ending. He has lost the basic grasping and is free. He is enlightenment. He is a Buddha. He is a Lord, a master of blessings for the world. He has the eye of vision and he teaches the way things are. Go to him and ask your questions. He will explain it all. When Bhavari heard that word Sambuddha, the name for total enlightenment, he was lifted to the heights of joy. As his sorrow quietened down, he felt immense delight take him over. The gladness and joy made him eager and deeply thrilled. Where, he asked the goddess, does this world guide live? Which village is he in? Which town? Which state? Let's go and honor this man, this ultimate being. And the goddess said, the conqueror lives in Savatthi, in Kosala. This Sakyan is a wealth of wisdom and a world of knowledge. He is unharnessed and undefiled. He has the strength of a hero, of a bull. He is the one to ask about head splitting. So Bavari the Brahmin called his pupils together, all of them, versed in Vedic mantras too. Come here, Brahmin students, he said, and listen to this. I have something to tell you. Something has happened, something that rarely takes place in the world. A Sambuddha has arrived. Yes, a man has been born in the world who is now recognized as fully enlightened. Brahmins, you must go immediately to Savatthi to see this perfect being. But Brahmin, sir, said the students, how can we go if we don't know what enlightenment looks like? Tell us, sir, how to recognize it. And the Brahmin said, the ancient teachings listed each one of the 32 marks of greatness on a Superman. When a person is born with these marks on his body, then we can say that one of two things will happen to him, that he has two choices open to him and no more. He can choose the life of a layman, the home life. Then he will conquer the world, not by force, but by virtue. Or he can choose to leave his home, to live as a homeless wanderer. And then he will become a Sambuddha, a man of worth, a fully enlightened, incomparable one. Now when you think you have found this man, you must ask questions in your mind about my age, my family, my body marks, my rituals and my pupils, and ask about head splitting too. If he is the Buddha with perfect penetrating vision, then he will answer aloud the questions you've asked in your minds. As Bavari talked, his Brahmin students listened. There were 16 of them, all of them famous teachers in their own right, namely Ajita, Tisametya, Punaka, Metagu, Dotaka, Upasiva, Nanda, Hemaka, Todeya, Kappa, Jatukani, the scholar, Bhadravuddha, Udaya, Posala, Mogaraja, the learned, and the great teacher Pingya, the wise. All of them were there. They were all well known as teachers and as men who found their enjoyment in life through their meditation practice. They were men, it was said, who had not lost the scent of their previous good deeds. When Bavari had finished his instructions to them, they carefully paid their respects and walked past him to his right. With their hide robes and their hair and their braided plaits of hair, they set off towards the north. They traveled through the land of the Alakas, coming first to Patitana, then to Mahusati, Ujjaini, and Gonada. On they went to Vedisa and Vadnasa, to Kosambi and Saketa, until they came to the greatest of all cities, Savatthi. From there they set out again, this time to the land of Magadha. They passed on their way through Setavya, Kapilavatu, and the town of Kusinara. They went on to Bhava, to Boganagara, the city of wealth, and then to Vesali, where they came to the beautiful Pasanaka Chetya, the rock temple. They climbed up the mountain path with the zeal and the haste of a merchant drawn to wealth, or a thirsty man to cool water, or a man with sunstroke to shade. And there, with the Sangha of monks gathered all around him, sat the Lord, the Blessed One. He was explaining the Dhamma to them. The lion was roaring in the jungle. Ajita saw the man of full enlightenment. It was like the sun shining without burning. It was like the moon bright and full on a full moon day. He could see all the signs of greatness clearly marked on his body. Astonished and overjoyed, he stood respectfully to one side and silently thought his first question. Tell me, he asked in his mind, how old my teacher is. Tell me what his family name is. Tell me how many of the marks of greatness he has got, and how well versed he is in the Vedic mantras, and how many does he teach. He is 120 years old, said the master aloud. His family name is Bavari. He has 3 of the body marks. He has complete knowledge of the 3 Vedas, and also of the commentaries, rituals, and signs. He instructs 500, and he has reached the ultimate stage according to his teaching. Describe Bhavari's body marks, masterman, desire cutter, said Ajita silently, so that we have no room at all for doubt. And the Buddha said, these are his 3 body marks, young man. His tongue is large enough to cover his mouth. There is a tuft of hair growing between the eyebrows, and the foreskin completely covers the phallus. Everybody could hear the master talking to someone they could not see. Who was asking these questions they couldn't hear? Was it some god, they wondered? Was it Indra, Brahma, or Sakka? Who was the master talking to? Astonished, they made the folded hand gesture in respect. Meanwhile, Ajita was asking another mental question. Bhavari asked about heads, master, he thought, and about how they are split. Please, great teacher, answer this question too. The head, said the master, is not understanding. The head is split in pieces and destroyed by understanding. With its army of powers in support, confidence, mindfulness, meditation, and determination and energy. These are the powers that split heads. With the thrill of exaltation stiffening every pore of his body, the young Brahmin student bared his shoulder from his height and got down to the ground at the feet of the master. Sir, he said with his head bowed, Lord, Seer, Bhavari, the Brahmin, and all his followers are filled with joy and delight. We have come to offer you honor and reverence here at your feet. And the Buddha said, may Bhavari, the Brahmin, and all his followers be happy. May you be happy too, young man, and may your life be long. For Bhavari, for you, and for all of your group, there are many different doubts and confusions. You now have the opportunity to ask about them. Ask now whatever you want to know. The man of full enlightenment had given Ajita permission, so the Brahmin student respectfully sat down, made the folded hand gesture, and addressed his first question to the thus gone one. Stop here for a moment. This is the prologue, and might not be the actual sutta. It might have been concocted over the years. Like this initial part where the beggar begged him for 500 pence and he refused to give and cursed him and he got frightened. Hard to believe if he's so learned and he knows all the mantras. He should have more powerful mantras. Now this is the real Dhamma part. Ajita's questions. What is it, said Ajita, that smothers the world? What makes the world so hard to see? What would you say pollutes the world? And what threatens it most? And the Buddha said, it is ignorance which smothers, and it is carelessness and greed which makes the world hard to see. The hunger of desire pollutes the world, and the great source of fear is the pain of suffering. In every direction, said Ajita, the rivers of desire are running. How can we dam them, and what will hold them back? What can we use to close the floodgates? And the Buddha said, any river of desire can be stopped with the dam of mindfulness or recollection, sati. I call it the flood stopper, and with wisdom you can close the floodgates. Sir, said Ajita, where there is wisdom and mindfulness, there is also the hybrid of mind and matter. What brings it all to a halt? This is the answer to your question, Ajita, said the Buddha. Individuality can be brought to a total end by the cessation of consciousness. Stop here for a moment. This cessation of consciousness is Nirodha Samapatti. When a person comes out of that state, then he becomes enlightened. Sir, said Ajita, there are people here who have mastered all the teachings, and there are students and apprentices, and ordinary people too. Tell me how these people should live and work. And the Buddha said, let them be like a wanderer, a monk, mindful and skillful in every way. They should free themselves from the hunger for sense pleasures and make their minds calm and undisturbed. Stop here for a moment. So here, of all the words, you can look for those, the more important ones. Among the many precious stones, we look for the bigger diamonds. Normally when we study the suttas, we look for the important parts, the really important parts. So you see this number 3 and 4, the rivers of desire are running. So the Buddha says it can be stopped with mindfulness or recollection. And with wisdom, you can totally close the floodgates. So this mindfulness or recollection is very important. It is unremitting mindfulness on one object, so that the mind does not stray. When the mind strays, then you have like and dislike, opinions and views and all that. So you have desires. So even in the previous sutta we read that when a monk goes forth, all the memories of the lay life come back to haunt him. So the first years as a monk, even for your 3 months or so, you can know all the thoughts go back to the home. A lot of dukkha when you miss your home, your family members and all that. So if a person renounces for good, it's even worse. Your 3 months, at least you know after 3 months, you sure go back. But if a person renounces for good, then like the Buddha, at the age of 29, he renounced. I'm sure all the thoughts go back to the family, to the wife, to the son who was just born. He probably cried night after night. But because he was already an Arya, the determination, the Buddha said, grit your teeth when the going is hard. Grit your teeth and bear it. Everything is anicca. The suffering also is anicca. The feelings, you can get over them after a while. You need to cry, have a good cry. Then after that, struggle on again. So this mindfulness, always putting your mind on your object. Your mind does not go back to those things that you have always desired, all those things, your attachments. Even when we meditate, whenever we meditate, you find the thoughts come up non-stop. And those thoughts that come and disturb you are all your attachments. But you have to fight with it, otherwise when you, in a few more years, when we all have to go, these same thoughts will come and haunt you. You have attachments on your deathbed, all these attachments will come and haunt you. So, okay. Tissa Metiya's questions. Then the Brahmin student, Tissa Metiya, asked the master some questions. Who in the world is contented? Santusito, he asked. Is there anyone who isn't full of agitation? Is there anyone who can understand the alternatives without getting stuck in his thinking between them? And who would you say deserve the title super being? Who is there who isn't caught up in the patchwork world of greed? And the Buddha said, there is a person who is not full of agitation. It is the monk whose actions in a sensuous world are pure and good. His actions or conduct in a sensuous world are pure and good. He does not have the thirst of craving. He never loses mindfulness, and he has, by his own decision, become extinguished. Calm. He understands the alternatives without being stuck in the thinking between them. This is whom I would call a super being, a man beyond the patchwork world of greed. Stop here for a moment. So here, Tissa Metiya's questions, I find this paragraph number 2 very important. He does not have the thirst of craving. He never loses mindfulness. So we have to give up the craving. All the things that we love are the very things that will give us suffering. If we are not attached to anything, there would not be suffering. It's the very things that we love and desire. Those are the very things that one day will give us a lot of pain when we have to part from them or they have to part from us. So this craving to give up attachment. And then he never loses mindfulness. This is unremitting mindfulness. Only when you have unremitting mindfulness, the stray thoughts don't flow. If you don't have unremitting mindfulness, then the stray thoughts flow. And it's these stray thoughts that give you havoc in the mind, that give you suffering. All the, what we call in Chinese, Da Wang Xiang, all the stray thoughts, all the thinking. The more you think, the more you suffer, mental suffering. Punaka's questions. The Brahmin student Punaka was the next to speak. I have come, he said, to ask a question of the one without desire, the one with root, depth, wisdom. It is this, Master, that I would like you to explain. Why is it that the wise men in the world, the Brahmins, rulers and others, have always offered sacrifices to the gods? And the Buddha said, these men were always making offerings to gods because as they grew older, they wanted to preserve their lives as they were. But Master, said Punaka, did they ever get beyond old age and birth by making all these careful offerings? Their prayers, said the Buddha, their praises, their offerings and aspirations were all made on a basis of possession, of reward. They long for sensual pleasure. These men, these experts in offerings, were delighting in the passion for becoming. These men could not go beyond getting old and being born. You must explain this to me, Master, said Punaka. If all the offerings of the experts couldn't get them beyond aging and birth, then who of all men, who of all the gods has ever managed to go beyond? And the Buddha said, when a person has assessed the world from top to bottom, when there is nothing in the world that raises a flicker of agitation, then he has become a person free from the smoke fumes, the tremblings and the hunger of desire. He has become calm. He has gone beyond getting old. He has gone beyond being born. So this last paragraph, when there is nothing in the world that raises a flicker of agitation, nothing to make you excited about, that means you have to give up all the attachments. Then only are you free of the tremblings and the hunger of desire. Metagu's questions. Then the Brahmin student Metagu asked his question. Master, he said, you are clearly a mind of full development and a master of knowledge. Where on earth do all the different kinds of suffering come from? And the Buddha said, this is a question about the birth and growth of suffering. I will answer it in the way that I myself have found it, which is this. All the different forms of suffering develop from the basic clinging. When a person does not realize this, he makes attachments. The fool will undergo suffering. When a person realizes this, he should not make attachments, seeing where suffering starts and grows. That clearly answers what I asked, sir, said Metagu. Please answer this one too for me, because of your certain knowledge. How do wise men cross the ocean? How can they get beyond the aging process? How can they get beyond birth or sadness or sorrow? The Master replied, I will explain to you the truth, not based on hearsay. First, realize that this way is one which can be known here and now, as a result of which a mindfully living person releases his hold on the world. Master Teacher Metagu said, for me there can be only joy and delight to hear you talk about a supreme way, which when a mindfully living person knows it, releases his hold on the world. The Master continued, in every direction there are things you know and recognize, above, below, around and within. Leave them. Do not look to them for rest or relief. Do not let consciousness dwell on the products of existence, on things that come and go. This is how the wandering monk lives. He goes from place to place, mindful and resolute. He does without cherished objects and comes to understand the world. So he leaves aging and birth behind. He leaves sadness and sorrow behind, and he lets go of suffering here itself. These great words of wisdom are full of joy for me, said Metagu. Gotama's description of non-attachment is perfect. This master clearly has let go of suffering. He has found and understood just as it is the way things work. The people whom you, the wisdom master, regularly teach will certainly lose suffering. As for me, I have come here to honor you, to bow down before you, a hero. I ask you, Master, to give me frequent teachings. The Master answered, when you are aware that a man is a Brahmana, a master of knowledge, a person with nothing, a creature with no ties to being or to pleasure, then, Metagu, you have found an ocean crosser, a traveler beyond the deserts and the doubts, a voyager who has reached the other shore. This is a knower, a master of knowledge, a hero who has dissipated the pool of constant becoming, a man who has lost the clinging, the trembling and the hunger of desire. This, I would say, is the man who has gone beyond getting old. He has gone beyond being born. Stop here for a moment. So you see paragraph 3. Paragraph 3, a person should not make attachments. If you have attachments, you will undergo suffering. And then paragraph 5, realize that this way is one which can be known here and now, as a result of which a mindfully living person releases his hold on the world. So, again, you have to be mindful of your meditation object all the time so that the mind does not wander. And then number 7, paragraph 7, do not let consciousness dwell on the products of existence, on things that come and go. Everything in the world comes and goes. So, if we think about them, attached to them, then we will suffer. Then number 8, mindful and resolute, without cherished objects. He comes to understand the world and leave the cycle of existence behind. So you need mindfulness and you need resolute, that means energetic effort, without cherished objects, without attachments. Okay, Dotaka's questions. The Brahmin student Dotaka was the next to speak. Master, he said, I so much want to hear you speak. Please, Master Teacher, explain to me, can a student of your teachings find the calm of cessation for himself? And the Buddha said, any student of my teaching who is eager, intelligent and recollected, here and now can find the calm of cessation for himself. I can see now, said Dotaka, that there is in this world a man who has nothing, a Brahmana, a wanderer. I bow down and honor you, sir, the eye that sees everything. Please, man of Sakya, free me from confusion. And the Buddha said, it is not in my practice to free anyone from confusion. When you have understood the most valuable teachings, then you yourself will cross this ocean. Have pity on me, Brahmana, sir, said Dotaka. Please teach me the way of detachment so that I can know it as it is, so that I can live in this life in the peace and independence that is as free as the air and space. And the Buddha said, I will explain that peace which is not based on hearsay and is attainable here and now. It is a peace which, when a mindful person understands it, releases his hold on the world. Master Teacher, said Dotaka, it can only bring me joy to hear about an ultimate peace, which, when a mindful person understands it, releases his hold on the world. In every direction, said the Buddha, above, below, around and within, there are things you know and recognize. When you realize that these are the things which tie you to the world, then you can lose the thirst of craving, the desire for constant becomings. So here for a moment. So you see paragraph number 2. Any student who is eager, intelligent, and recollected or mindful, here and now can find the calm of cessation. So you got to be eager, have the desire, and then got to be intelligent, and got to practice mindfulness all the time. And then paragraph 6. It is a peace which, when a mindful person understands it, releases his hold on the world. Again, it talks about being mindful. Whenever you see the word mindful, you must remember it is sati. Sati is a specific mindfulness, not a general mindfulness. And then paragraph 8. All the things that you know and recognize in the world are the things which tie you to the world. So everything have to let go. That's why it's so hard to practice a spiritual path. Upasiva's questions. Then the Brahmin student Upasiva asked a question. Man of Sakya, he said, it is not possible for me to cross the massive ocean alone and without help. You are the eye that sees everything. Please tell me what I can use to help me cross the ocean. Then the master said, use these two things to help you cross the ocean, the perception of nothingness and the awareness that there is nothing. Give up sense pleasures and be free from doubts. So you will begin to see and to long for an end to craving. Master, said Upasiva, when a man is free from attachment to all pleasures and depends on nothingness and everything else he lets go, he is freed in the supreme freedom from perception. But will he permanently be there and not return again? And the Buddha said, when a man is free from all sense pleasures and depends on nothingness, he is free in the supreme freedom from perception. He will stay there and not return again. Master, you have the eye that sees everything, said Upasiva. If this man stays many years in this state without returning, will be cooled and freed there itself. Say whether consciousness will still exist for such a person. And the Buddha said, it is like a flame struck by a sudden gust of wind. In a flash it has gone out, and nothing more can be known about it. It is the same with the wise man, freed from mental existence. In a flash he has gone out, and nothing more can be known about him. Please explain this clearly to me, sir, said Upasiva. You, a wise man, know precisely the way these things work. Has the man disappeared? Does he simply not exist? Or is he in some state of perpetual well-being? And the Buddha said, when a person has gone out, then there is nothing by which you can measure him. That by which he can be talked about is no longer there for him. You cannot say that he does not exist. When all ways of being, all phenomena are removed, then all ways of description have also been removed. And the Buddha said that like the Buddha is enter Nibbana, he is unfathomable. You cannot fathom his state, you cannot understand his state. This paragraph 3, when a man is free from attachment to all pleasures and depends on nothing, and everything else he lets go, then he is freed in the supreme freedom. Nanda's questions. The next of the Brahmin students to speak was Nanda, and this is what he asked the Buddha. Many people in the world, he said, talk of wise men who they say are living in the world. What do you think about this? When they call someone wise, are they talking about his knowledge or about the way he lives? To the experts, said the Master, the word wise has nothing to do with the way a person sees things, or with what he has been taught, or with what he understands. To me, Nanda, a wise man is one who is disarmed. He lives in seclusion, without the tremble or the hunger of desire. Then Master, said Nanda, there is another question I must ask you. All religious teachers and Brahmins have talked about the way to be pure. Some have said that purity comes from world views and from teachings. Some have said it comes from good deeds and religious rituals. Others have said it comes from other things. Would you say, sir, that these men living in this world who have taught these things have gone beyond birth and aging? And the Buddha said, I would say this about religious teachers who teach that views and teachings or deeds and rituals or anything else will make you pure. I would say that these men living in this world have not gone beyond birth and aging. But Master, said Nanda, these men who teach that purity comes from views and teachings or deeds and rituals and other things, these men are religious leaders, and you say that they are not ocean crossers. I must ask you another question, sir. Can you, a wise man, say who in the world has gone beyond birth and aging? And the Buddha said, I do not say that all religious teachers and Brahmins are wrapped in the shroud of birth and aging. There are some who have let go of world views, of teaching traditions of thoughts. They have let go of religious practices and rituals. They have left all the different forms behind, and they have a total understanding of attachments. For them, there are no asavas. These truly are the ocean crossers. How perfect is the wisdom master's explanation of non-attachment, said Nanda. It fills me with joy to hear it, and to hear that there are people who have let go of views, of traditions, of thoughts, of religious practices and rituals, and of all the different forms. And these people have a total understanding of attachment. They have lost the asavas. These are the people whom I too will call the ocean crossers. So you look at paragraph 2, this important part. A wise man lives in seclusion. You find holy men always like to live alone. Hemaka's question. Hemaka was the next to speak. Before Gotama began to teach, he said, all teachings I had heard had only said, this is how things used to be, and this is how they are going to be. Everything was based on tradition and hearsay, which just increased my doubts. So please now, Wisdom Master, explain to me the way you teach to put an end to craving. Explain to me the way you teach, which when a mindful living person knows it, releases his hold on the world. And the Buddha said, the removal of desire and passion for pleasant things, seen, heard, or cognized, is the sure path for the realization of Nibbana. Understanding this, those who are mindful have attained this tranquility of complete Nibbana in this immediate life. They are calm forever. They have crossed the attachment in this world. So here the paragraph 3 is important. The removal of desire and passion for pleasant things is the sure path for the realization of Nibbana. All the things that we love, we have to let go. Today's questions. The Brahmin student today spoke next. What, sir, is the nature of freedom? He questioned the master. When one has no more desire for pleasure, goes beyond doubt and lives without craving. And the Buddha said, a person who has no desires, who has gone beyond doubt, and who lives without craving, has indeed found the final freedom. For him there is nothing more to be freed. All-seeing Sakyan said to Dea, please explain one other thing to me. I want to know how to recognize a wise man when I see him. Does the wise man still have any desires, or is he completely wishless? Does he still need to learn, or is his wisdom complete? And the Buddha said, a wise man, Todaya, does not have desires, nor does he need to learn. He is wishless, he has wisdom, and you can recognize him because he is a man of nothing. He is not hanging on to pleasure or to being. So, to recognize a wise man, to see he is not attached to anything. Kappa's question. Next was the Brahmin student Kappa. Sir, he said, there are people stuck midstream in the terror and the fear of the rush of the river of being, and death and aging overwhelm them. For their sake, sir, tell me where to find an island. Tell me where there is solid ground beyond the reach of all this pain. Kappa, said the Master, for the sake of those people stuck in the middle of the river of being, overwhelmed by death and aging, I will tell you where to find solid ground. There is an island which you cannot go beyond. It is a place of nothingness, a place of non-possession and of non-attachment. It is the total end of death and aging, and this is why I call it Nibbana. There are people who, in mindfulness, have realized this and are completely cool here and now. They do not become slaves working for Mara, for death. They cannot fall into his power. We see this, the Buddha calls this Nibbana, the island. There is a book called The Island by Ajahn Pasano. There's a copy in our library about Nibbana. So it is a place of non-possession and non-attachment in paragraph 3. You completely let go of everything, including yourself. Jatukani's question. Then the Brahmin student Jatukani spoke. I had heard, he said, that there was an ocean crosser, a hero, desiring the desireless, and so I have come to ask the question of this man without desire. Tell me this, eye of instant seeing and knowing. What is the state of peace? Please explain it to me as it really is. And the Buddha said, no, and he continued, you, Master, rule desire and pleasure like the sun, with heat and light, rules and controls the earth. I have only a little understanding, sir, and you are a globe full of wisdom. Tell me how to find and know the way of giving up this world of births and agings. The Buddha replied, lose the greed for pleasure. See how letting go of the world is peacefulness. There is nothing that you need to hold on to, and there is nothing that you need to push away. Dry up the remains of your past and have nothing for your future. If you do not cling to the present, then you can go from place to place in peace. There is a greed that fixes on the individual body and mind. When that greed has completely gone, then Brahmin, there will be no more asavas, without which you are immune from death. You see paragraph 3, nothing that we need to hold on to and nothing to push away. Dry up the remains of the past and have no ambitions about the future, and do not cling to the present also. Bhadravuddha's questions. The student Brahmin Bhadravuddha spoke next. I have come, he said, to ask a question. Thirst breaker, wishless, free and wise, beyond time and home, life and pleasure, please, ocean crosser, for all the different people here who have come from different places to listen to your words, tell us about the way that you have found and known. And the Buddha said, there is, in taking things, a thirst, a clinging, a grasping. You must lose it. You must lose it all together, above, below, around and within. It makes no difference what it is you are grasping at. When a man grasps, Mara stands beside him. Therefore the monks, realizing this, should not grasp at anything, being mindful. He should see the beings that are creatures of attachment as tied to the power of death. So this last paragraph, should not grasp at anything and be mindful. Udaya's questions. Then the Brahmin student Udaya spoke. Gone beyond in every way, he said, the ultimate in everything. When he sits in meditation, there is no poison to infect him, no dust speck to impede him. He has done what has to be done. Can you tell me about the knowledge that frees? Can you tell me how to remove ignorance? And the Buddha said, the removal of both desire for sensuous pleasure and grief, the rejection of laziness and the restraint of worry, said the Buddha. The purity of perfect balanced mindfulness built on a basis of seeing the way things are. This is liberation knowledge, and this is the destruction of ignorance. And Udaya asked, what binds and ties down the world? What causes the wandering? What is it that you abandon in order to find Nibbana? And the Buddha said, that which ties you down is the desire for pleasure. The wandering is thinking, and the way to Nibbana is to abandon the thirst of desire. I have come with these questions, said Udaya, and I hope you will answer one more. How does the mindful wanderer bring his mind flow to an end? And the Buddha replied, the sensations that he feels from the inside have no more fascination for him, and the sensations that he feels from the outside no longer fascinate. The wanderer is mindful and brings his mind flow to an end. Look at this paragraph 2. Removal of desire for sensuous pleasures. When we have desire for sensuous pleasures, then craving increases. But if we can't get it, then grief, we will have grief. So these are the two things. When we have desire, either we have greater greed, or if we can't get it, then we grieve. And then this paragraph 7, feelings. He is no more fascinated with feelings, no more attached to feelings, whether it is from the outside senses or inside. He is no more attached to feelings. Then only the mind can stop flowing. Posala's questions. Then the student Posala got up to speak. In everything, he said to the master, you have reached perfection. There is not a movement of desire, nor a remnant of doubt left in you. And so I have come to you, who can explain what has happened in the past, to ask this question. I want to ask you, man of Sakya, about knowledge. If a man is no longer confined to seeing forms, if he has discarded the materialist world, and he sees that there is neither inner nor outer substance to things, is there then anything more for him to know? To the Tathagata, the thus gone one, replied the Buddha, all the aspects and stages of mind are clear. And so when a person who has set his sights on freedom reaches his goal, the Tathagata knows what stage he has reached. When he has realized that the binding power of pleasure is rooted in nothingness, then he has come to a clear understanding of this process. This knowledge, he, the completely accomplished Brahmana, has achieved completely. Mogaraja's questions. The next to speak was the Brahmin student, Mogaraja. Man of Sakya, he said, I have asked about this twice before without receiving an answer from the wisdom eye. But I have heard that if a wisdom god is asked a third time, then he will give an answer. I do not know, famous Gotama, what attitude you take towards this world and towards the other world, the world of Brahma and the gods. So, because of your insight into excellence, I have come to ask you about this. What is the best way for a person to regard the world, so that the king of death won't see him? And the Buddha said, if you are always mindful or recollected, Mogaraja, you will look at the world and see its emptiness. If you give up the view of a self, then you will have given yourself a way to go beyond death. Look at the world like this, and the king of death will not see you. This last part is important. If you are always mindful or recollected, then you will see the emptiness in the world. And you have to give up the view of the self. Pingya's questions. Then the Brahmin, Pingya, spoke. This one is an old man. I am old and decaying. My body is weak and my skin is pale. I can hardly see and I only hear with difficulty. Don't let me die while I am still in confusion, but teach me about the way things are, so that I shall know how to leave birth and aging behind me. Look, replied the Buddha, look how many people are tormented by pain. Look how careless they are and how greatly they suffer because of body and forms. If you do not want to go on and on becoming Pingya, you must let go of the body and of forms. In all the 10 directions, said Pingya, above, below, and in every quarter of the compass, there is not a thing that you have not heard, seen, known, or understood. Teach me about the way things are, so that I shall know how to leave birth and aging behind me. Can you see, replied the Buddha, how people are oppressed by desire? Can you see how they are wrecked and worn by aging? If you do not want to go on and on becoming Pingya, you must let go of craving. So for this old man, the Buddha only tells him one thing, let go of craving. Then the epilogue. This one epilogue also, we're not sure whether it's original or not. This is what the master said when the 16 Brahmins came to the rock temple in Magadha to ask him their questions. If you know what each question means, see what each question implies, and live in accordance with the way things are, then you will go beyond. You will cross the ocean of death and aging and reach the other shore. These things lead to that other shore. That is why this teaching is called Parayana, the way to the beyond. There were 16 of them who came to see the Buddha that time. There was Ajita, Tissa, Metiya, Punaka, Metagu, Dotaka, Upasiva, Nanda and Hemaka, Todeya, Kappa and Jatukani the scholar, Bhadravuddha, Udaya, Posala, Mogaraja the learned, and the great Pingya the wise. These were the men who came to see the Buddha, the man of perfect conduct. They came to the Buddha to put their complex questions to this paragon of understanding. The Buddha answered the questions with the exactness of truth, just as things are. The Brahmins were pleased to hear the words of this wise man, and so, filled with pleasure by the clear-sighted vision of this kinsman of the sun, they settled down to a life of purity and goodness, spent in the shelter of the precious wisdom of the Buddha. Anyone whose life accords with what the Buddha taught in these answers goes across the ocean, from here to the beyond, from this shore to the other. This is crossing the ocean. This is traveling on the highest path. It is a path that leads to that other shore. That is why it is called Parayana, the way to the beyond. Pingya's praises of the way to the beyond. Remember, Pingya is the old man. I will sing you the praises of the way to beyond, said Pingya, when he returned to where the Brahmin Bavari lives on the banks of the river Godavari. It was described to us by this man exactly as he saw it. But then, there isn't any reason why a man like him should lie, a mammoth of knowledge and completely pure, a man without desire. When a voice has none of the glibness of pride and none of the ingrained stains of ignorance, then its words are full of sweetness and beauty. It is such words that I praise now. They call him Buddha, enlightened, awake, dissolving darkness with total vision and knowing the world to its ends. He has gone beyond all the states of being and of becoming. He has no asavas. He is the total elimination of suffering. This man, Brahmin Bavari, is the man I follow. Stop here for a moment. So now he switched his teacher. Now Buddha is his teacher. Buddha is the man he follows. It is like a bird that leaves the bushes of the scrubland and flies to the fruit trees of the forest. I too have left the bleary half-light of opinions. Like a swan, I have reached a great lake. Up till now, before I heard Gotama's teaching, people had always told me this. This is how it has always been, and this is how it will always be. Only the constant refrain of tradition, a breeding ground for speculation. This prince, this beam of light, Gotama, was the only one who dissolved the darkness. This man, Gotama, is a universe of wisdom and a world of understanding. A teacher whose Dhamma is the way things are, instant, immediate, and visible all around, eroding desire without harmful side effects, with nothing else quite like it anywhere in the world. But Pingya, said Bavari, why then don't you spend all your time, your every moment with this man Gotama, this universe of wisdom, this world of understanding? This teacher whose Dhamma is the way things are, instant, immediate, and visible all around, eroding desire without harmful side effects, and with nothing else quite like it anywhere in the world. Brahmin sir, said Pingya, there is no moment for me, however small, that is spent away from Gotama, from this universe of wisdom, this world of understanding. This teacher whose teaching is the way things are, instant, immediate, and visible all around, eroding desire without harmful side effects, with nothing else quite like it anywhere in the world. You see, sir, said Pingya, with constant and careful vigilance, it is possible for me to see him with my mind as clearly as with my eyes, in night as well as day. And since I spend my nights revering him, there is not, to my mind, a single moment spent away from him. Stop here for a moment. Here it seems like he says he has the divine eye. He can see the Buddha with his divine eye. I cannot now move away from the teaching of Gotama. The powers of confidence and joy, of intellect and awareness hold me there. Whichever way this universe of wisdom goes, it draws me with it. Physically, I cannot move like that. My body is decaying. I am old and weak. But the driving power of purposeful thought propels me with it without break. There was a time when, writhing in the mud of swamps, I could only drift from one stone to the next. But then I saw the Sambuddha, fully awake and free from defilement. Then the Buddha spoke. Pingya, he said, other people have freed themselves by the power of faith. Vakali, Bhadravuddha, and Alavi Gotama have all done this. You too should let that strength release you. You too will go to the further shore, beyond the draw of death. These words, said Pingya, are the words of a man of wisdom. As I hear them, I become more confident. This man is some Buddha. He has opened the curtains and woken up. There is nothing barren there. His mind is clear and luminous. Everything accessible to knowledge is known to him, even the ultimate subtleties of Godhood. There are no more questions for the doubtful who come to him. The teacher has answered them all. Yes, I shall go there. I shall go to the unchangeable. I shall go to the unshakable. I shall go to the incomparable. There are no more doubts. You may consider this as mind released. So this last part he's saying his mind is released, he has attained arahanthood. Old man like him also can. So you can see there's a lot of Dhamma in this last chapter. But Dhamma that is not easy to practice, letting go all the things that you attach to, all the things that you love, all the things that you value in the world, including your very self. I think to discuss. So tonight we have finished the Sutta Nipata. Tomorrow we won't be having any talk tomorrow night because we are doing the liver cleanse. Saturday maybe we start on the Dhammapada. Page what?
138, Buddha has questions.
One what?
128.
Okay.
Verse 6. How does the mind who wanders his mind flow to an end? This mind flow by is asava?
Which paragraph?
Verse 6.
Verse 6. How does the mindful wanderer bring his mind flow to an end? This mind flow, you can see, is asavas. So you notice these feelings. We must not be moved by feelings. In the dependent origination, the 12 links of dependent origination of suffering, we can only break the chain at feelings. The others are quite automatic, but feelings, if we don't allow craving to arise, then only we can break the chain. Otherwise, we cannot break it elsewhere. But not to allow craving to arise, you got to have a strong mind. You need a samadhi, and you also need a very good understanding of the Dhamma. These two things are most important on the spiritual path: a strong mind from samadhi and understanding the Dhamma, the original suttas. This must be all the different forms of religious practice. Bodhisattva.
And at the same time, we want to liberate ourselves. So if we cannot let go of this view, does it mean that we can't progress?
Yes. A lot of people, they have all these views about being the Bodhisattva and all that. But in the original teachings of the Buddha only taught us to practice the Noble Eightfold Path. That is the most important. After we practice the Noble Eightfold Path and then attain, then only you can decide whether you want to be a Bodhisattva or not. In other words, whether you want to teach or not. A lot of people, they make the aspiration to be a Buddha, to help everybody in the world. But they don't know that according to the suttas, 99.99% of all Buddhas are Pacceka Buddhas who refuse to teach. Because the Buddha said he looked into the past. He spent probably the whole night looking 12 hours into the past, and he looked for 91 world cycles and saw only 6 Sammasambuddhas who were willing to teach the Dhamma to the world. On the other hand, in the Majjhima Nikaya, Isigili Sutta, the Buddha said at one time, on the outskirts of Rajagaha, on this Isigili hill, there were 500 Pacceka Buddhas living at one time. So you can find many Pacceka Buddhas, but out of so many Pacceka Buddhas, to find one who is willing to teach is extremely rare. So what's the point of making all this aspiration to become a Buddha? In the end, you don't want to teach. On the other hand, we find that the Arahants during the Buddha's time, they are the ones who act like Bodhisattvas, going around teaching the Dhamma and spreading the Dhamma throughout the world. So we should not start with preconceived ideas. Those they become stumbling blocks for us. You have not even seen the way. How can you have preconceived ideas? You want to be this and you want to be that. The way is like this and the way is like that. So we have to follow exactly the Buddha's words in the suttas and practice. And then slowly, as the delusion in us is lessened, as the 5 hindrances cover us, become less and less, then we see more and more clearly. In the suttas, there's one sutta where the Buddha was arguing with a young Brahmin student who was a student of a famous Brahmin. What's his name? I forgot the Brahmin's, the teacher's name. But the Buddha told the young Brahmin, he said, your teacher is covered by the 5 hindrances. In other words, he has not attained any jhana. So how can he know and see things as they really are? So it's very clear from here that if we have not attained jhana and got rid of the 5 hindrances, we cannot know and see things as they really are. And we make things worse by having views, by having preset opinions. So we should start with no preconceived notions and just practice a spiritual path, and slowly as we learn, then we understand more. It's just like some people starting on the spiritual path, they already have preconceived ideas about the Creator. You don't know anything about the Creator. How can you have preconceived ideas about the Creator?
Let's say if we have these preconceived ideas, we want to be a bodhisattva, we learn whatever we can from Buddhism, and then we start teaching people. So we end up not only won't progress, we teach people wrong things, isn't it?
Yes, exactly. That's why we read in one of the Digha Nikaya Sutta, there are 3 types of teachers who are not qualified to teach. And 2 of them, I think, are teachers who have not really attained anything. Basically, attainment in the Buddha's words, suttas, refer to Uttari Manusa Dhamma. Uttari Manusa, higher than the human state. Dhammas, that means superhuman or supernormal attainments. And these supernormal attainments, there are a few of them. One is the jhanas. Secondly, the psychic powers. Thirdly, the various stages of Aryahood. So if a person has not attained these 3, any one of these 3 things, to teach is risky. You might be teaching something which is not according to the Buddha's Dhamma.
Back to Udaya question, page 128. Paragraph 3. To see the way things are, we need balance the mindfulness. In the five power, we know that we need to balance between faith and wisdom and energy and concentration, but not balancing mindfulness. So my question is, do we need to balance mindfulness, and if so, how?
Which paragraph?
Paragraph B. The purity of perfect balanced mindfulness.
Balance mindfulness, yes, you have to balance with the other things. Even effort, too much effort also is wrong. Like just now we saw this DVD on the secrets of sleep. If a person strives too hard and does not sleep enough, then he gets hallucinations. Strives too hard, also you get a pain in the head. So you have to know to balance your mindfulness with effort and faith and all the other factors of the these 5 faculties. Did I answer your question?
I think I heard one saying that mindfulness need not demands the more the better.
Say again. The more.
Example say that mindfulness is special among the 5 powers because it is karmically wholesome, and the more you have, the better you can become.
Yes, but you must just know what state you are at. For example, the Buddha says in the Vinaya books that his monks should take their rest in the night without a lapse of mindfulness. In other words, don't fall asleep. But can you do it? So if you have not reached that state, you must know yourself. You haven't reached that state, you put too much effort, then you go wrong. Right? So you must know how to walk the middle path. The Buddha said himself, when he struggled too hard, he was worried about. He's practiced all the austerities and he nearly died. 6 years wasted because he was too eager for enlightenment. So you got to know yourself, you got to know your ability. Like that old man, Pingya, he also attained enlightenment. But I'm sure the way he struggled was not like Moggallana. Moggallana whole night he didn't sleep. 7 days became enlightened. Yeah. So you must understand your body. You must understand yourself. There's one sutta about practicing satipatthana. The Buddha said, gave the simile of the cook. The cook who cooks for the king. If he's a smart cook, he has to notice what taste the king likes. Whether the king likes more chili, or more salt, or more sweetness, or more sour, and all that. So he cooks to the king's taste, and then the king is very happy. Maybe give him a bonus and all that. But if he does not notice the king's taste, and then he cooks, always the king don't like his cooking. The king will chow yao yi him, sack him. So the Buddha says, in the same way, when we practice, we have to know ourselves. What is it that is suitable for our mind? The object of meditation must suit you. The times of practice must suit you. The conditions, the food you eat must suit you. So when all the conditions are right, then your mind can easily calm down. If the conditions are not right, for example, you put too much effort when you are not ready for it. You know, our mind, I like to give the simile of somebody pumping iron. Like Arnold, what is his name? Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's a tough guy. Maybe he can lift 200 pounds. But if you are just new, just starting to pump iron, you try to lift 200 pounds, you get a muscle ache, isn't it? And then you have to stop pumping iron for 1 week. So in the same way, when our mind is not conditioned, you must not exert too much. Exert too much, you harm your brain. And I've seen some people, they harm their brain permanently, and they tell me they cannot meditate anymore because they were following the teacher's advice, and the teacher told them to press on. Even when you have pain in the head, be mindful, be mindful. So they practiced according to what the teacher said, and then they got jammed. Permanent pain in the brain, and they can't meditate anymore. So you have to use your wisdom. Okay? So we end here.